And we continue the conversation with Bob Lentz, who has written this wonderful book entitled The Dignity Revolution. You're getting a good shot at it right there. That's available in our e-store. And Bob, this is our second segment together. And I was just so encouraged as to how you are in these 100 public schools a year. You have been at this for 31 years, so you've been in, I think, 23,000 schools. I don't know what you do in your spare time. But you are doing in these live events so much what we're trying to do through video, through our documentaries here at Crossroads. So we're having some wonderful conversations when the camera isn't on us. Bob, let's continue talking about let's go to bullying. In the United States, a situation happened, I believe it was in the state of New Jersey this fall, where a high school football team was revealed to have graphically and profanely abused, I guess maybe a freshman player or something like that. And as a result, the school board responded to this outrage by canceling the season, and then the parents of football players are upset about it, and it just seems very confused and conflicted. I'm not asking you necessarily to comment on that, but is that the kind of occurrence that happens far more than we know in North America, doesn't it? Well,
if you look at the statistics of how often kids are being bullied, you would not imagine how high it is. But the thing that is different from today than, say, like when we were kids, if I can put myself in that group, is now it's a social media, it's constant. It could have been a name just on the ball field, but by the time you're home, it's done. But now it's repeated over and over again, and the intensity of what they are doing. Like in that situation, there's two sides. People are saying, okay, what they did was wrong, but why have the whole team suffer? And so some people say, you know what, you win as a team, you lose as a team. And the biggest issue is not that, you know what I hate to admit, we're not gonna stop all bullying. But you know what we can stop? The people not saying anything. Where were the people standing up saying this is wrong? Where were the people saying this has to stop now? And that's what we have to support. That's what we have to encourage, because it can stop then. When one person says that's wrong, stop. And if they don't, then take the proper steps to reporting it.
What do you do if you're a parent and you realize your middle school son, who is a good student, but maybe has a tender heart and is kinder and soft-spoken, and maybe cries a little easier than perhaps some other boys might? What do you say to that parent, and how are there steps that you go through? It's like, I'm sure there's some parents or grandparents right now saying this is where we're living.
Well, you know, and I hate to refer to the book, but there is a whole steps for the parent in the book of what to do.
In Dignity Revolution.
Yes, to take them seriously, to make sure you listen. But I think the biggest core is, because we're not going to stop all bullying, and do we want that sensitivity to go away in our young son? Or
not at all.
No, we want gentle men again. And the problem is we have wimps, and we have guys who are so macho that can't admit, but we need gentle men again. And so to do that, how do we tell them that that's okay? It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to be a little different. And what we always do is we take in the US, a $5 bill, and we say, how much is this worth? And they say $5. Well, what if I verbally abuse it? You good-for-nothing $5 bill, I wish you were never even printed. You'll never be as good as your older brother, the 10, right? How much is it worth now? $5. What if I step on it? What if I spit on it?
Still worth $5.
And what if I tear it up?
Yeah.
As long as it had the identification number on it, it hasn't lost its value. And we want to show people that, you know what, no matter what they do to you, they cannot control you. And here's the hard part, because say even with the teen suicides that happen because of bullying, which I believe they do, but if a student came up to me and said he was suicidal, the principal asked if I'd talk to him, and he had just moved here from Pakistan, and he was suicidal, and I asked why. He said, we moved here for the freedom in this country. He said, but because of the color of my skin, they call me terrorist, and they spit on me and they hit me. Now, if I say that the reason he attempted suicide was because of the bully, I've empowered the bully even more. But how do I stand up against what's wrong and empower this young man to know that he's valuable, saying that should not have happened, that cannot, we will not tolerate that.
It's unacceptable behavior.
It's not acceptable, but we will continue to stand up for who you are.
You are passionate about not only the issue of bullying in schools, but you also you write about violence and talk about violence in schools. Is it just increasing more and more?
I think,
or is it over? And I don't mean to diminish the horror of violence. We focused on it in a documentary, but is it scaling up or scaling down?
I think it is still scaling up. I really do, because of it's reported more. But what we're doing is there's so many people that are building up inside. We've not taught them how to deal with the abuse, how to deal with the brokenness. And what we have to identify is, where is the safe place? Because many times the violence, the people we used to turn to, the family, to the trusted adult, many times that's where the abuse. It's not coming from the stranger in the park. Many times it's coming from those who are family. So how do we identify where the real safe place is so that we can curb this violence that's going on?
Another issue that we've been brought to attention to us is the growing prescription drug, the opiate issue. Here in Canada, the equivalent of the Food and Drug Administration or the pharmaceuticals here, Health Canada, has warned that Ottawa has said, the nation's capital has said, this is a real problem. We've seen reports bubbling up by the National Institute of Health in the United States. Is this something you're seeing when you're out there in the grassroots?
Well, you know, the acceptance of drugs itself, you know, it used to be, well, as long as it's alcohol, and we can't even say that because there's still more deaths and more addiction because of alcohol. But now the access to the drugs, the access to, whether it's the prescription drugs or the marijuana or the meth, all the different things that are happening today at such an earlier age, and we have to stand up and say, the key to me is still the why. The bullying, what's the issue underneath? What are you trying to satisfy? How have you not been heard? How have you not been cared for? How have you not been loved? The emptiness inside, what are you hiding from? What high are you looking for? Where are we to show these youth how you can have love, acceptance, and awesome living without this? That's what the core is.
Bob, another subject, and again, we're moving through here because you have such great expertise, and I'm sorry we limit you because of time, but it's the nature of it.
We'll be back.
I hope you will. Another why issue is the suicide. Why suicide? And we've done a documentary on that. That's been close to our hearts the last couple of years. Of the 100 public schools that you're in every year, what percentage of them would you say, as you got to know them, have been affected by a suicide of a student in that school in the year or two that you've been there?
If we talk about attempts and even completions, every one of them.
Every one of them?
If you look at it, they're saying that we have about 1,800 attempts a day,
every day
in the U.S. alone. 1,800. And that over 60% of youth that sometimes saw death is more appealing than life. That's why our organization, Life Promotions, how do we turn that around? But if we look at the core, you know, you talk about giving things away, and you talk about a suicide note, and you talk about signs of depression. Them are all true, but the three biggest factors that we found are statements of hopelessness. It's not going to get better. The statements of helplessness, there's no one to help. And the statements of worthlessness. So if you want to message the young people today, John, we got to bring worth. You're valuable. We have to bring hope. It's going to get better. And we have to bring help. We care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You got to care.
Would you, being the communicator that you are and you're friendly with that camera there, would you just look in that camera and take 30 seconds to 45 seconds and just share with people out there who may right now be a parent facing the kind of things you're talking about, or maybe a kid that might have tuned in as well? Would you take a moment to do that, just you and the camera?
Sure. I just would like to say to every person out there, no matter what people have done to you, no matter what they've said to you, no matter how you've been treated, no matter what mistakes you've made, please, I can't take away the pain. I can't take away all the problems, and I can't take away all the past, but you don't have to let it take away your future. There is still future. There is still hope. There is still destiny for who you are. So what I would say is, no matter how dark, no matter how hopeless, do not give up. There is people who care, and there is a God who is totally in love with you. And there is tomorrow that's going to be brighter.
Bob Lentz, thank you so very much. And I would say to those of you that are watching and just heard what Bob has to say, on the screen right now is a prayer line. It goes to our care center here at Crossroads. We receive over 1,000 phone calls per day, people who are hurting and struggling. And we wish that you would be one of those calls. No matter the volume of calls, we'll talk to you. We'll be as patient as we can to help you work through issues, and then do what we can to offer help that can take you into other relationships where people who have expertise in crises that you may be facing. Would you call that prayer line today? And would you speak to someone and say, hey, I just watched Bob. I just saw Bob, and I need to pray because I've got a teenage son who's messing up, or I've got a teenage daughter who's going through hell at school, and we don't know what to do. Or I have my own tendencies to want to take my life. Allow us to pray with you and help direct you to some people who can bring hope and help and worth to your life. And Bob and I both agree that the greatest hope that you can ever experience is through knowing Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. And so today, we wish that you would call. And we also hope, too, that you've enjoyed this interview with Bob, that you'll go to his website, or you'll visit our e-store, and that you will get this wonderful book. It's on the screen there, Dignity Revolution, Standing Up for the Value of Every Person. Bob, this is the first time we've met, but it's not going to be the last.
I hope not.
I so look forward to getting to know you, and let's figure out ways that we can do even greater things together.
You know, I think we're better together for the kingdom.
That's right, we are. Bob Lentz, thanks so much.